Much of the east coast of the United States blanketed by smoke drifting down from wildfires burning in Canada. Coincidentally, today happens to be Clean Air Day in Canada. For a second straight day, New York City is experiencing some of the worst air quality in the world. And those living in other major metropolitan areas, including Philly, D.C., even down to the Carolinas, are also living with unhealthy, even in some cases, hazardous conditions. Let's go straight to CNN's Bill Weir, who's in Brooklyn. Bill, how bad is the air where you are right now?
But we're in Williamsburg, Brooklyn right now, and we've been watching the sky change in the most sort of eerie, apocalyptic ways since midday. We saw the sky turn from like a dirty yellow to this ominous orange at one point. It got so dark that the streetlights came on in Central Park automatically. There are ground stops at LaGuardia. We just received word it looks like they're going to cancel the Yankees game and the Phillies game tonight, as well as the New York Liberty, as a result of this smoke right here. But this is the worst air quality since they've been taking readings, I think, for the last 30 years or so. Anything above 300 on the air quality index is considered dangerous for everyone, regardless of your health, regardless of your age. Officially, we've topped over 320 today. I saw some readings on some air quality weather maps that were north of 400. Unofficial, but astounding when you think about what that means in terms of where this puts New York on the world's most polluted cities. We're up there with New Delhi right now in terms of air quality. This is a city with 4 times as many people and much less stringent air quality standards and regulations as well. And it's all a matter of those wildfires up north. Right now, so far, this part in June, 15 times the average land in Canada has burned, and the height of the wildfire season up north really doesn't get kicked off until July or August. So who knows if this is going to be a long-term trend. We're hoping for some rain tonight, but in talking to doctors and folks from the American Lung Association, they're very concerned about folks staying inside, not being active in this. The more you are working your lungs and sort of inhaling those PM 2.5 particulate matters deep into your body, the worse it can be for folks, especially those maybe who survived COVID and were damaged by that and now have to worry about this exacerbating those injuries as well. But this is the latest from here. I'll send it back to you, Jake.
All right, Bill, we are in Brooklyn. Thank you so much. Let's go to West New York, New Jersey. That's the name of the city, West New York. That's where CNN's Maria Santana is. Maria, tell us what the air is like where you are.
I want to show you what it looks like right now in West New York, New Jersey, and we are really west of New York. That is Midtown Manhattan across the Hudson River right now. You can kind of make out the buildings at this point. Earlier today, you couldn't see anything. It was so dense and so thick with smoke that it was completely white. It also got very dark hours earlier, to the point where the streetlights, as Bill Weir said, turned on here. And the authorities in New Jersey are recommending that people stay indoors, that they limit their outdoor activities.
All right, Maria Santana in the town of West New York in New Jersey. Thank you so much. We're tracking this dangerous smoke that's causing flight delays. It's canceling outdoor activities. It's sending people indoors. Meteorologist Jennifer Gray joins us now from CNN's Weather Center. Jennifer, where is the smoke heaviest right now?
Well, really, the New York area is where it's at its worst. You can see visibility is at 1.5 miles. So we've seen it down to less than a mile at some points during the afternoon. You can see Syracuse under a mile, State College. So really, this area right here is where we're seeing the worst of it and the thickest smoke. However, it all depends on the wind direction. So by tonight, I think some of the smoke is going to shift a little bit farther to the west and a little bit farther to the south. So when it clears up for one area, it's going to be bad for another. This is a time lapse progressively throughout the day, and you can just see it worsen with the hours that have gone by. And that's what we've seen, and that's what the reporters are saying. And New York City now tops that map of the worst city in the world for air quality. And it's been on this top 10 list for the last couple of days, but for the last few hours has been sitting right at number 1. You can see those red and purple dots. That's where the worst air quality is across that I-95 corridor up in upstate New York, even back in the Ohio Valley. And that's where the worst quality air is going to move over the course of the next few days. So for New York City, it is going to remain bad. Washington, D.C., it's going to stay really nasty as far as tomorrow goes. And then it looks like by Friday, the more of this will shift a little bit farther to the west, Jake. But it's going to stick around, I believe, for the long term.
All right, Jennifer Gray in the CNN Weather Center. Thanks so much. With me now is Dan Westervelt. He's an assistant research professor at Columbia University and an air pollution advisor to the U.S. State Department. Dan, thanks for joining us. It's staggering what we're seeing today across the Northeast. Put this in context for us. How bad is the air pollution right now in New York City and other parts of the eastern U.S.?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jake. It's really hard almost to find words to describe what we're seeing with these levels of particulate matter. These levels are at least 10 times higher than what health guidelines mark as the healthy levels for exposure for particulate matter. So we're really seeing just unprecedented amounts of pollution in the New York area and in the mid-Atlantic in general.
Country in terms of where forest fires or which provinces are seeing the worst of this. To start with British Columbia on the west, where 103 wildfires are burning. Next door in Alberta, which has also certainly been very hard hit this season, 83 fires are currently burning right now. Take a look, though, as we go further east. You see Quebec. Quebec is definitely dealing with an onslaught right now in terms of wildfires. They currently, we heard from officials in the last few hours, are dealing with 114 active wildfires. They have what they're calling an intensive zone. And in that intensive zone, 77 wildfires are burning. Of the 77, 28 of them are considered to be out of control. They have so many wildfires in the province of Quebec right now that what we heard from officials is they are having to pick and choose as to what they're going to prioritize.
There are 110 active fires in Quebec. Almost 1,200 people from Cree communities across the northern part of the province have fled their homes due to wildfires and smoke.
An astonishing milestone this week. Monday and Tuesday, the hottest days ever recorded on Earth. Here in the U.S., Americans feeling the brutal summer heat firsthand. Over 20 million under heat alerts today. Local emergency managers putting extreme weather plans in place.
Just last year, we activated the plan twice, and it was only for a couple days. It's now been active for over a week.
Connecticut's governor also activating statewide extreme weather protocols to protect residents from brutal temperatures. Sarasota, El Paso, and Portland all seeing record highs Wednesday. And in Tucson, Arizona, it was a staggering 107 degrees. Summer's only just begun. Even with half the world in winter, the average global temperature at 62.6 degrees Monday, and even higher, 62.9 on Tuesday. Climate experts warning this is not a milestone to celebrate.
We're pushing our ecosystems and our climate into a different place than it's been for the entirety of human civilization. And that is alarming.
All right, so I want to spend some time talking about something absolutely remarkable that happened just south of our community just a few hours ago in the Florida Keys, and it revolves around the incredibly warm water temperatures that surround the Florida Peninsula. Now, there's a number of buoys all across the Florida Keys, but at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, the buoy at Murray Key measured a sea surface temperature just less than 5 feet below the ocean surface of 99.3 degrees. Now, as if that wasn't incredible enough, a few hours later, a separate buoy in Manatee Bay, which is a little closer to the Key Largo area, measured a jaw-dropping figure of 101.1 degrees. Now, if this verifies, and I'm sure they're going to critique the numbers quite a bit in the next 24 hours, but if that verifies, that would set a new world record for the warmest sea surface temperature that's ever been observed by humans, and it would break the current record of 99.7 degrees that was observed in Kuwait Bay in the Persian Gulf in the Middle East. So this is really quite incredible. Now, for some perspective, the water temperature averages in this part of the Florida Keys during the month of July only averaged in the mid and upper 80s. So the fact that we have water temperatures now that are at or above 100 in parts of the Florida Keys is just astonishing. And it's not only in the Florida Keys where water temperatures are running way above average. This is a water temperature anomaly map. So the darker the red, the higher the temperatures are above average for today's date. And they are exceptionally warm across the northern Atlantic. You know I don't need to tell you that we don't need a hurricane this year, but we really don't need a hurricane that's encountering water temperatures close to 100 degrees. It's It's simply mind-blowing what's going on right now with the water temperatures across the Atlantic.
On the island of Rhodes, around 19,000 people have been evacuated from villages and several hotels in what authorities have called the largest ever fire evacuation in the country's history.
Much of Algeria's northern provinces have been torched. Homes, trees and land left in ashes.
La chaleur, c'est horrible. Il y a toute la fumée noire et toute la chaleur qui vient sur nous. Et les cendres là qui nous chauffent. J'ai essayé de couvrir les enfants là pour les protéger.
Ça m'a brûlé.
Wow.
In terms of heat waves, more often we see that every study that we do, we see the fingerprint of climate change in intensifying this type of events of heat waves. So it's pretty clear, it's unequivocal that human-induced climate change is influencing heat wave events in terms of intensity and the frequency of occurrence.
Images from Hawaii, where wildfires have killed at least 6 people in Maui County. Violent and explosive wildfires have torn through the island of Maui, destroying homes and businesses. The fires being fueled by a hurricane 800 miles away. It erupted so suddenly people had to run into the ocean to escape the fire and then later be rescued. CNN's Derek Van Dam is with us now. And Derek, we just heard from authorities in Hawaii. They say the fire's still burning.
And it's likely to continue as well, Jake. I mean, we still have the indirect impacts from Hurricane Dora and high pressure system to the north. So what it's doing is it's putting the squeeze right on the Hawaiian Islands and allowing those winds out of the east to gust, well, we just checked, over 40 miles per hour in some of those locations. That's going to obviously complicate fire efforts. But look at the aerial video that you're seeing on your screens right now. This is imperative because the fire that impacted the west side of Maui, the location, the economic hub of Miami, where all the resorts and businesses are generally located, where people go as tourists to visit. Well, the fire ran out of room to burn, literally moving into the ocean as it literally had nothing else to char. But it was just incredibly harrowing moments. There were adjectives used like dire and apocalyptic, and you can see exactly why with some of these first aerial visuals that we are getting. Now, everyone in Hawaii knows how to handle a hurricane. Everyone knows how to handle a volcano as well, as difficult as it can be. But this caught people off guard. As a meteorologist, we were watching Hurricane Dora slide well south of the island chain. It wasn't a concern for us. We thought it was fish food, literally not impacting land. But the fact is that it created a phenomenon with the winds that no one could have foreseen, and it caught people off guard in the middle of the night when people were sleeping. So you can imagine just how terrifying those moments were overnight when we started to see those little flashpoints, the little hot spots on satellite imagery that meteorologists look at. We started to see those flare up. And that was a concern. And we immediately started to recognize that there was a problem. Social media videos start pouring in. And then we start to learn about the communications going down, 911 not becoming available for residents over the western side of the island of Maui. Think how concerning and how terrifying those moments must have been for people not being able to reach out for help. Well, that's what people had to endure.
Люди разбежаются.
Thousands of people in Canada's British Columbia province have evacuated due to wildfires. A state of emergency has been declared there.
They know wildfires in Canada, but not like this. Fires this year are the worst in recent history. As they advance through rural land, they threaten population centres. British Columbia has declared a state of emergency. People in the western province have been forced to flee the area. Thousands are subject to an evacuation order. Thousands more have been told to be ready to move.
British Columbians know that right now we are facing the worst wildfire season in our province's history. This unprecedented situation has come to a head this evening. In just the last 24 hours, the situation has evolved and deteriorated quite rapidly.
This was smoke in the sky over the city of Kelowna in British Columbia. These were the scenes in Yellowknife, the capital city of Canada's Northwest Territories. 20,000 residents were given a weekend deadline to leave the city for their own safety. Thousands took to the road, others were evacuated by air. Canadian military planes joined the effort. A chart of Canadian wildfires through the years vividly reflects the spike seen this year. More than 14 million hectares have been burned. That's twice the previous record in 1989. Long-term drought conditions and record-high temperatures are cited as factors by Canadian authorities, who warn of a still unpredictable situation with difficult days ahead.
It was a powerful hurricane strike that made landfall in Florida just after daybreak this morning and continues to do damage in the Carolinas tonight. The full extent of Idalia's destruction is not yet known, but what is clear is that Mother Nature had her way once again. Our team is spread out across the storm zone, and ABC's Maria Villarreal leads our coverage from hard-hit Cedar Key, Florida. Maria.
Byron, Cedar Key is a tight-knit community that thrives on tourism, but in a matter of hours, that was all swept away. The winds were so powerful, it actually knocked over a gas station canopy. Storm surge washing out the main roadways in and out of the city. But once the water receded, business owners on this waterfront street got their first look at the destruction. The amount of surge evident by all of the debris left behind. And you can take a look right here. This is actually a cement flooring that came from the business that you see right behind me. Owners are saying they believe that this is an absolute loss for them. And even when the power gets turned back on, there is no guarantee that anybody will return because there's no place to stay. So a hit on their economy and their livelihood. Byron?
Maria, thank you. Hundreds of thousands remained without electricity tonight in the wake of Idalia, including in Tallahassee. And that's where we find ABC's Victor Akindo. Victor.
Byron, here in Tallahassee, the race is on to restore power. The biggest concerns for the capital city, wind damage, downed trees, and power outages. Despite being spared the brunt of Idalia, sure enough, we got a combination of all three. Once Idalia cleared the area, our team drove around and quickly spotted crews clearing a tree that fell on a busy highway and took down some power lines. Just beyond them, a lineman in a bucket truck working on restoring power to the nearby streetlights. And look at this outside the governor's mansion. Florida First Lady Casey DeSantis posted this photo. It was a 100-year-old oak tree brought down by Idalia. DeSantis was inside with her children. Nobody was hurt.
Residents in more than 20 Florida counties were ordered to evacuate. And while many heeded those warnings, some made the risky decision to hunker down. Catastrophic storm surge up and down the Florida coast, up to 7 feet. Hurricane Idalia flooding downtowns, leaving homes destroyed. Idalia is the first major hurricane that hit this part of Florida's Big Bend on record.
No!
And now thousands returning home to see whether their homes and businesses survived. Like Shannon and Jordan Keaton, who evacuated and rode out the storm 30 miles inland with family. They're longtime residents of Cedar Key, one of the areas hit hardest by the storm.
So there's still no power, no sewer, no water, nothing. My house is fine. There was no issues here. My restaurant is another story. There's quite a bit of damage there. All of my the deck that was around the building is gone. Missing some windows and doors.
They own one of the most popular restaurants on the island, 83 West.
It's terrifying to me that I wasn't able to see my cameras at the restaurant. I was looking at possibly 8 years of my efforts, gone down the Gulf.
This wasn't their first hurricane. Back in 2016, Hurricane Hermine hit their restaurant, causing $750,000 in damages, according to Jordan.
The problem with being right over the water is it's uninsurable, as are all of the restaurants on Dock Street. They won't be able to get any help from insurance, and they won't be able to get any help from FEMA or anything. Everybody's on their own.
After Hermine, the Keatons rebuilt their restaurant out of pocket because he says they can't get insurance. Now they have to go through it all over again. Jordan hopes to reopen in a few weeks.
We're going to rebuild it. We're going to make it again. Luckily, this area is not prone to a ton of hurricanes. We probably get one every 10 years, but it does seem like it is a little bit more frequent now.
The ocean's abnormally warm waters averaging 88 degrees, fueling Idalia, increasing its speed as it approached land. While many evacuated, some decided to stay put, including residents in Hudson, Florida, who were stunned by how fast the water came in.
Before I knew it was over the wall. We're trying to get in the truck, and it's up to barely able to get the doors open. Came over the wall. It's just, I can't believe this. I've never seen nothing like it.
I've never seen this before. I mean, we've had a hurricane here, but it's never flooded to this extent.
Just up the coast in Steinhatchee, the Norwood family was split on whether to evacuate or not. But today, much of it was hit with major storm surge, leaving debris and damage in its wake. But tonight, others on the path of the storm from Georgia to South Carolina are still dealing with the remnants of Idalia. As the storm exited Florida and tracked to the north and the east, it continued to cause flooding and also became a tornado threat. ABC's Alex Prechet has more from Charleston, South Carolina. Alex.
Hey, Byron. So the number one thing that Charleston is facing tonight is flooding. Adalia, mixed with those high tides, have flooded roadways. They've flooded parking lots. The National Weather Service has said that water has reached the Charleston Battery and the dunes at Edisto. The other thing that it's facing is wind. We've got down trees, down power lines, and then all throughout the day, they have been dealing with tornadic activity. One tornado so strong that it even picked up a car. Now, more than 34,000 customers are without power. We were actually one of them. The power at our hotel going out for about an hour before the generators kicked back on. That's why the mayor here has urged residents to hunker down, stay safe, not to put any first responders at risk.
Authorities in Libya say thousands are dead there after a massive storm flooded coastal communities. In one hard-hit city, it's feared 1 out of every 20 residents has been killed. Think about that for just a second. Holly Williams reports on this sudden catastrophe and some major obstacles preventing people from just getting help.
The city of Derna was home to about 100,000 people. Now over 5,000 of them are dead, according to one Libyan official. The authorities say across the country, twice that number are still missing. Storm Daniel, which killed 15 people in Greece last week, swept across the Mediterranean Sea, causing 2 dams to burst just outside Derna. This was the city last month, and this is the aftermath. Floodwaters broke the banks of the river and smothered entire neighbourhoods in brown silt. Buildings were torn down. Their residents didn't stand a chance. Some streets were left carpeted in bodies. Mustafa Salem said he lost 30 family members in the inundation. People were asleep, he explained. No one was ready. Libya's been torn apart by years of civil war and competing national governments vying for power. But this is a different kind of chaos. Political rivalries may now hamper the rescue effort. Dr. Mohammed Al-Kabisi said the dead are laid out in the corridors of his hospital. Over 2,000 so far. Libya's people have survived conflict and violent extremism, but they weren't prepared for a natural catastrophe on this scale.
In New York, a deluge of 2 months worth of rain falling on the city in 24 hours, causing severe flooding in some areas. Samara Theodore is here with the latest as things dry out a bit. Samara, good morning.
Good morning. So yesterday's powerful and moisture-laden storm capped off New York City's second wettest September on record as torrential rainfall left those in transit in dangerous and simply impossible situations.
This morning, New Yorkers drying out after a dangerous deluge left many areas underwater from record-breaking rain. Over the last 24 hours, unrelenting rain turning roads into rivers, cars stranded as people flee for dry ground, and millions of New Yorkers urged to shelter in place. In New Jersey, a state of emergency, floodwater swamping roads, making travel dangerous and nearly impossible. In Fairfield, watch as a firefighter hoists a driver over his shoulders, rescuing him from the stranded car in the middle of a flooded street, one of at least 18 rescues throughout the region. In New York, states of emergency in New York City and the Hudson Valley, one of the Big Apple's wettest days on record, with more than half a foot of rain falling. The NYPD sharing video of this sea lion that escaped from its enclosure due to the flooding, but returned without leaving the zoo. The torrential downpour sending water cascading down stairs at subway stations. The system coming to a complete halt as rain poured through openings and cracks. This video showing water shooting out of the wall at the 7th Avenue subway station in Manhattan.
Get off right here.
Riders on this city bus in a panic as water surges inside. Drivers abandoning their cars on the FDR highway on Manhattan's east side. At the city's LaGuardia Airport, one terminal shut down as waters rise. More than 1,000 flights canceled or delayed. Hard-hit Brooklyn receiving nearly a month's worth of rain in just a few hours. Vehicles plowing through flooded roads and floating trash. A whirlpool forming over a storm drain. Brooklyn's 4th Avenue looking like a lake. SUVs creating waves as drivers test their luck despite the dangerous conditions.